Welcome to the 41st edition of Stump the Pastor. Our question today comes from Janice in Birmingham. And she asks, which page of the Bible explains how to turn water into wine? Asking for a friend. Well, the water into wine story is the first miracle story in the Gospel of John. It is found in chapter 2. In my Bible, that is page 1411. Your Bible may vary. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Janice, but the recipe Jesus used to make wine was left out of the Bible. Probably not by accident. Those of you who have heard me preach know that every biblical writer brings a unique perspective to the stories they tell, even when they tell the same stories, like Matthew, Mark, and Luke often do. So you already know that John's gospel is really different from the other three gospel writers. For example, it doesn't appear that John used Mark as a guide, like Matthew and Luke, and John's gospel has 0 parables. So the Gospel of John was written much later than the other Gospels, and the world has changed clearly in the intervening years, and so have the needs of the church. So it doesn't appear that this first miracle story in John's Gospel inspired the evolving Christian community to go into the business of winemaking, at least not in the manner Jesus used. It does appear that this story about the wedding wine served a different purpose. In John's Gospel, this was Jesus' coming out story. That's right, this was the first public demonstration where Jesus taught a deeper truth by using everyday, ordinary events to reveal the nature of grace. The miracle of water into wine is almost lost in the great reveal that has a much greater impact on the guest gathered for the wedding feast. See, when we read the story, we discover that they were amazed by the grace at the event. Did you catch what they said? Most people serve the really cheap stuff when the crowd is already getting drunk and no longer cares about the quality of the wine, but the quality of the buzz. You save the best for last. That, by the way, is from the Pastor Paul translation of the Gospel of John. But the point of the story was that grace surprises. It is never manipulated by human will, social contract, or the expectation of drunk, expectant wedding guests. It is offered freely. So as luck would have it, I actually do have a recipe for this kind of wine. To turn the ordinary of water into the gift of wine simply requires offering the gifts of your life with grace. You see, there is no measuring of ingredients, no stirring up a ruckus. A good ruckus is a difficult ingredient to find these days, by the way. No holding back your best love for fear of it running dry. No worrying if you'll be able to find all the ingredients. They are always plentiful. In my experience, this process always produces the best wine that grace can create. So again, you'll find this recipe on page 1411 in my edition of the Bible. And Janice, as the pandemic winds down to a more hopefully manageable moment, I can't wait for the time when we can once again share a glass of wine together and catch up in person. And that actually goes for all my Pilgrim folks. See you next time on Stump the Pastor. Well, what a great question. Hope you have some great questions that you'd like to send me as well. Don't worry if they make sense or not. We'll take them all. See you next time on Stump the Pastor.